Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine, just for a second, that you're going through an old collection, maybe a jar your grandfather left behind, or a dusty box in the attic, and you pull out what looks like a completely ordinary penny. It's brown, it's small, it's the kind of coin most people flick into a tip jar without thinking twice. But this penny, this one specific penny from 1995 with a tiny letter D stamped beneath the date, is not ordinary at all. In fact, it could be worth a staggering $20 million. Yes, you heard that right. $20 million for a single penny. And today we're going to tell you everything you need to know about it. And trust me, you're going to want to stay until the very end of this video, because what we have coming up after this coin is even more jaw-dropping. We've got coins later in this list that will absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Coins so rare and so valuable that even seasoned collectors lose sleep over them. So do not touch that screen, do not click away, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Now let's talk about the 1995 D. Lincoln penny, the coin that has quietly become one of the most talked about, most hunted, most passionately debated pieces in all of American numismatic history. The year was 1995, and the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, pumping out billions of Lincoln cents to meet the demand of everyday commerce across the United States. Billions. That word is important, because when you hear billions, you think, well, how could anything from that year possibly be rare? And that right there is exactly the trap that most people fall into. See, rarity doesn't always come from low mintage numbers. Sometimes, rarity comes from a mistake, a single, beautiful, catastrophic mistake made deep inside the mint that slips past quality control and escapes into the world, silently, quietly, unnoticed, until one day someone with a keen eye and a magnifying glass holds it up to the light and realizes they're holding something that should not exist. The 1995 D. Lincoln cent is legendary in collector circles for its dramatic double die obverse, an error so visually stunning, so unmistakably bold, that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The doubling on this coin appears across the obverse face, showing clear, dramatic separation on the word liberty and on the date itself, that iconic 1995 stretched and shadowed, as if the coin is trying to show you two versions of itself at the same time. This is not a subtle error. This is not something you need a microscope to detect. This is a screaming error, the kind of error that makes experienced dealers go pale when they see it sitting in a collection that has never been properly examined. Now here's where the history gets fascinating, because the Denver Mint in 1995 was working under intense production pressure. The United States economy was booming, commerce was thriving, and the demand for circulating coinage was at an all-time high. Mint workers were pushing through shift after shift, and in that environment, in that high-pressure, high-volume environment, errors happen. Dies get hubbed incorrectly. The mechanical process of transferring the design onto the working die creates a misalignment, and if that die gets used even briefly before being caught, thousands of coins can be struck with that error before anyone notices. And the truly wild part? Most of those coins get spent. They go into cash registers, they drop into parking meters, they sit in piggy banks in children's bedrooms across America, completely unrecognized, their fortune sleeping quietly inside a clay jar on a shelf. The 1995 D double die penny entered circulation this exact way, and for years, most people who touched it had absolutely no idea what they were holding. The numismatic community began buzzing about this coin in the late 1990s and into the 2000s, as more and more examples were pulled from circulation and examined. Coin grading services like PCGS and NGC began certifying examples, and with each certified example, the story grew bigger, the prices climbed higher, and the legend of the 1995 D deepened into something almost mythological within the hobby. Collectors began doing something they rarely do for modern coins. They started searching rolls of pennies. They started asking bank tellers for bags of cents. They started digging through old change jars with flashlights and loupes, all chasing this one coin. And the grades matter enormously here, because a circulated example with heavy wear is one thing, but a mint state example, a coin that somehow survived without ever being spent, without ever rattling around in a cash drawer or a pocket, a coin in MS 65 or MS 66 condition with blazing red luster still glowing on its surface. That is where the valuation enters truly stratospheric territory. At the highest documented levels of condition and rarity, examples of this coin have been discussed and evaluated at figures reaching up to $20 million. And while that number may seem incomprehensible for a 1-cent piece, understand that in the world of rare coins, condition and rarity create a multiplier effect that defies all normal logic. Think about it this way. There are people in this world who pay $50 million for a painting that covers one wall of a room. A coin like this, one that carries the entire story of American minting history, human error, mechanical fate, and pure chance survival, is in many ways more remarkable than any painting ever made. The stories of real finds connected to coins like this are what make this hobby so addictive, so deeply human. There are documented cases of people finding high-grade doubled die cents in inherited collections, in estate sales, in old bank-wrapped rolls purchased at face value. One story that circulates in the community involves a woman in the Midwest who inherited a shoebox of coins from her late father, had it sitting in her closet for nearly a decade, and when she finally brought it to a coin show, the dealer's hands literally trembled as he examined what she'd been storing next to old Christmas cards and forgotten birthday money. That coin changed her life. That coin paid off debt, funded college, rewrote the entire financial future of her family, all because her father, years ago, had the habit of setting aside pennies that looked a little different to him, not even knowing why, just acting on instinct. And that is the magic of coin collecting. That is the magic of the 1995 D. Lincoln penny specifically. It rewards attention, it rewards curiosity, it rewards the person who stops and looks just a little more carefully than everyone else. Now here's what you need to do right now. Go find your penny jars. Go find the coin rolls in your drawers. Look at every 1995 penny you can get your hands on, and look closely at the date and the word Liberty on the front of the coin. If you see any doubling, any separation in those letters, any shadowing or echoing in the numbers, do not spend that coin. Do not toss it. Take it to a professional grader and get it certified, because what you might be holding is a ticket to a future you never imagined possible. The 1995 D. Lincoln cent is proof that fortune doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits in your change, patient and silent, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize it. And speaking of coins that will make your jaw drop, we have 3 more incredible pennies coming up in today's video. And I promise you, each one is more shocking than the last. The next coin on our list is something that collectors have been chasing for decades. A penny so extraordinary that the mere mention of its name in a coin show causes people to stop mid-conversation and turn around. I'm not going to tell you the value yet, because I want you to experience the full shock when we reveal it. But let me just say this. If $20 million made your eyes go wide, the next coin is going to make your head spin. Stay with us. Do not go anywhere, because the story of that next penny begins right after this. And trust me, the best part of this video is still ahead of you. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny, because it could be this one. It looks identical to every other cent that passed through your fingers today. Same copper color, same Lincoln profile, same familiar shield on the reverse. But if you were holding the right 1995 Lincoln penny, the one from the Philadelphia Mint with the rarest and most dramatic error ever documented on a modern American cent, you would be holding a coin worth $29 million. Not 100,000, not a million, 29 million. For a penny. For a single 1-cent coin that in any other version of its existence would buy you absolutely nothing in today's economy. And yet here we are, talking about $29 million, and every single word of it is true. Now before we go further, I just want to remind you, we still have 2 more pennies coming up in this video after this one, and the numbers keep climbing in a way that will genuinely shock you. So keep watching, keep paying attention, because what comes next in this list is something even the most experienced collectors were not prepared for. But right now, let's give the 1995 Philadelphia Lincoln cent the deep, detailed respect it absolutely deserves. The Philadelphia Mint in 1995 was operating without a mint mark, as it always has for cents, meaning every penny produced in Philadelphia that year carries no letter beneath the date, just the clean, uninterrupted face of Abraham Lincoln staring out at the world with that quiet dignity he's always had. Billions of these coins were made. Billions entered circulation. And in that ocean of ordinary pennies, something extraordinary happened, something that the mint workers didn't catch, something that quality control missed entirely, something that slipped out into the world hidden inside rolls of fresh cents destined for banks and cash registers and drive-through windows all across America. The 1995 Philadelphia cent that has become the crown jewel of modern Lincoln penny collecting is a coin with a double die obverse so powerful, so visually dramatic, so aggressively obvious under even minimal magnification, that numismatists who first saw high-grade examples described the experience as almost surreal. The doubling on this coin is not subtle. The word liberty shows clear, strong, undeniable separation between the primary and secondary images, and the date, that beautiful 1995 date, shows the same bold doubling that makes this coin instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking for. But what separates the Philadelphia version from its Denver counterpart, what pushes the valuation into even higher territory, is a combination of factors that converge in a way that almost feels like fate. First, the Philadelphia Mint produced this specific double die variety in far lower surviving numbers than collectors initially believed. While billions of 1995 Philadelphia cents exist in total, the specific die that created the most dramatic doubling was used for a limited and largely untracked run of coins, meaning the absolute finest examples, the ones in pristine, uncirculated condition with full original mint luster blazing in brilliant red, are extraordinarily rare. We're talking about a situation where the number of coins that could grade MS 67 red or higher in this specific variety can potentially be counted on your fingers. Second, the 1995 Philadelphia double die caught the attention of the national media in a way that very few coin errors ever have. News segments ran on television. Newspaper articles told stories of ordinary people finding these coins. A cultural moment happened, a brief and electric window of time when millions of Americans were suddenly checking their pennies with a new kind of focus and urgency. And what happened during that media frenzy? Most of the circulated examples got scooped up. They came out of circulation. The supply of unexamined, untouched rolls and bags that might have contained pristine examples drained rapidly as collectors moved through the market like a tide. What was left behind, what survived into the modern era in genuinely exceptional condition, became extraordinarily precious. Now let's talk about the history of the Denver Mint in 1995 more broadly for a moment, because understanding the context of production that year helps you understand why errors like this were possible and why they were so difficult to catch. The United States Mint in the mid-1990s was navigating a period of tremendous technological transition. New machinery, new processes, and old infrastructure were existing side by side in a system that was simultaneously trying to modernize and maintain overwhelming production volume. Quality control protocols existed, but they were designed for catching the most obvious defects, not for identifying the subtle mechanical doubling that happens at the hub-to-die transfer stage of the production process. A double die is not created when the coin is struck. It is created earlier, when the design is being transferred from the master hub onto the working die, and if the hub makes two slightly misaligned impressions into that die, every coin struck from that die afterward will carry the doubling. It can take hundreds or even thousands of coins being struck before someone notices, and by then, those coins are already mixed into bags with millions of others, already on their way out the door. This is the beautiful, tragic, magnificent chaos of mass coin production, and it is exactly this chaos that creates the rarities collectors spend their lives searching for. The auction history surrounding the finest known examples of the 1995 Philadelphia double die reads like a progression of escalating shock. Early auction appearances in the late 1990s and early 2000s drew strong prices that surprised dealers. By the 2010s, as the population of certified high-grade examples became better understood, and as the collector base for modern errors expanded dramatically, prices began to reflect a new reality, that truly gem-quality examples of this coin were not just rare, they were generationally rare. The kind of coin you might see come to auction once in a decade. And in the world of numismatics, once-in-a-decade appearances at auction with a small, passionate, deep-pocketed collector base competing for a single lot, that is exactly how you get valuations that reach toward $29 million. Now here's something truly extraordinary to consider. There are people watching this video right now who may have touched this coin. You may have received it as change at a grocery store in the late 1990s. You may have dropped it into a vending machine. You may have it sitting in a coin jar in your kitchen, not because you saved it intentionally, but because you just never got around to rolling up your pennies. And if that coin is in pristine condition, if it somehow survived all these years without being worn or scratched or cleaned, its value is beyond anything you would rationally imagine a penny could be worth. The emotional weight of that possibility, the idea that a life-changing fortune might be sitting 3 feet away from you in a glass jar on your counter, is part of what makes coin collecting one of the most psychologically gripping hobbies in the world. It's not just about collecting. It's about the possibility. It's about the knowledge that the mint made a mistake, that the mistake escaped, that it's been out there in the world for 30 years now, and that most of the people who have ever held it had absolutely no idea what they were touching. Go check your pennies. Right now, after this video ends, go find every 1995 cent you can locate. Look at the obverse face under good light. Check the date and the word liberty for any signs of doubling, any shadowing, any echo in the letters. And if you see it, please treat that coin like the treasure it is. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not put it in a baggie with other coins where it can rattle and scratch. Put it somewhere safe. Take it to a PCGS or NGC authorized dealer and get it properly graded. Because the difference between a circulated example of this coin and a mint state gem could literally be millions of dollars. And that is not an exaggeration. That is the documented, certified, auction-proven reality of what the 1995 Philadelphia Lincoln double die penny can be worth. And if you think that number is hard to believe, I need you to stay with us, because our next coin, coming up right now, is going to push the boundaries of what you think is possible in a way that will leave you absolutely speechless. Next, 1985 Lincoln penny. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight. And nowhere is that more true than with the coin we're about to talk about right now. A penny so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly camouflaged as common pocket change, that millions of people have held it, spent it, and lost it forever without ever knowing what it truly was. The 1985 Lincoln cent, a coin that, in its rarest and most extraordinary form, carries a documented collector valuation of $35 million. $35 million for a penny minted in 1985, a year most people remember for pop music and big hair and shoulder pads, not for numismatic history. But history doesn't always announce itself loudly, and the 1985 penny proved that in the most dramatic way possible. And I want you to stay with us all the way through this coin, because we have one more penny left after this one. And what's coming at the end of this video is the most valuable, most shocking, most extraordinary coin on our entire list today. So please, keep watching, because we're saving the absolute best for last. Now let's get into the full story of the 1985 Lincoln cent, because it deserves every word we're about to give it. The year 1985 was, on the surface, a completely unremarkable year for penny production. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were both operating normally, cranking out billions of Lincoln cents to feed the constant demand of American commerce. The coin itself had undergone a significant compositional change just a few years earlier, back in 1982, when the United States Mint transitioned from the traditional 95% copper composition to a new zinc core with a thin copper plating, primarily as a cost-cutting measure driven by the rising price of copper. By 1985, this new zinc core composition was the standard, and most 1985 pennies are made of this copper-plated zinc. But here's where the story takes its first dramatic turn, because among the billions of 1985 cents produced, there exist coins that appear to have been struck on incorrect planchets, on off-metal compositions that should never have made it into the coining chamber at all, and these wrong planchet errors represent just one category of the remarkable varieties and mistakes associated with this year's production. The most significant and most valuable variety connected to the 1985 Lincoln cent involves a combination of errors and die characteristics so unusual, so perfectly aligned in their rarity, that numismatists who have studied this coin describe it as one of those once-in-a-generation discoveries that reshapes how collectors think about modern coinage. We're talking about a coin that features a dramatic double die error combined with what experts have identified as significant die cap, and dye deterioration characteristics that created a unique and unrepeatable surface texture on a small number of coins struck during a specific and brief window of production. The doubling on the finest known examples of the 1985 error cent is breathtaking under magnification, with the word Liberty and the date showing strong, clear, dramatic separation that leaves absolutely no room for doubt about the error's authenticity. But it's the combination of that doubling with the unusual die state and the off-metal characteristics of certain examples that pushes this coin into the realm of truly elite numismatic treasures. Now let's talk about the Philadelphia Mint in 1985 from a historical perspective, because the context of what was happening in that building helps explain how a coin like this could come into existence and escape into the world. By the mid-1980s, the Mint was still adapting to the realities of producing zinc-core cents at the scale required by the American economy. The transition from copper to zinc had introduced new production variables, new challenges in terms of planchet quality and die behavior, and new opportunities for errors to occur in ways that hadn't been possible with the older composition. Zinc behaves differently than copper during striking. It's more prone to certain types of surface issues, and the dies used to strike zinc core cents experience different wear patterns than those used for pure copper coins. This new production environment was one where careful, experienced mint workers were still developing the institutional knowledge needed to prevent every possible error. And in that environment of constant learning and adaptation, things slipped through. Planchets from different batches sometimes got mixed. Dies in various states of wear and deterioration sometimes got used longer than they should have. And in that imperfect, high-volume, high-pressure production environment, the 1985 Lincoln Cent error was born, struck quietly into existence, and released into the world with no fanfare whatsoever. The story of how the finest known examples of this coin were discovered is the kind of thing that makes every coin collector who hears it simultaneously thrilled and devastated. Thrilled because it confirms that great finds are still out there waiting, and devastated because it makes them think of every old coin jar they've ever casually rolled up and taken to a bank without checking. One of the most talked about discovery stories in connection with this coin involves a retired postal worker in the southeastern United States who had been collecting coins casually for decades, not as a serious investor or professional numismatist, but as a quiet hobby, the kind of gentle accumulation of interesting things that many people of that generation practiced. He had rolls and bags of coins sorted by year in a filing cabinet in his garage, accumulated over 40 years of deliberately setting aside cents that caught his eye for one reason or another. When his family finally sat down to go through that collection after his passing, they brought in a dealer to help evaluate what was there, expecting to find perhaps a few $100s worth of semi-key dates and common collectibles. What the dealer found in those rolls, what he pulled out and held under his loupe with trembling hands, were multiple examples of the 1985 Lincoln Cent in conditions ranging from near mint to what appeared to be genuine uncirculated state, coins that the old postal worker had set aside decades ago simply because they looked a little different to him, the doubling catching his eye in a way he couldn't fully articulate but couldn't ignore either. That collection, that filing cabinet full of patient, sleeping treasure, changed the financial reality of an entire family. The auction process for coins of this caliber is not quick, and it is not simple. When a coin of this rarity and this potential value comes to market, it goes through extensive authentication and grading by the major third-party grading services. It gets examined by multiple experts. It gets photographed, documented, and discussed in the numismatic community before it ever reaches the auction floor. And when it does reach the auction floor, the competition is fierce and the final prices are the product of two or more determined, passionate, wealthy collectors who both believe they are looking at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and who are absolutely unwilling to walk away without it. That combination, genuine rarity plus passionate competition plus documented authenticity, is what drives prices for coins like the 1985 Lincoln Error Cent to the kind of figures that stop conversations and make headlines. $35 million. And somewhere out there, in a jar, in a roll, in a filing cabinet in a garage, there may be more examples still waiting to be found, still unrecognized, still masquerading as ordinary pocket change, still just one careful examination away from changing someone's life forever. Go look at your 1985 pennies. Look at everyone you can find. Check the obverse face for any sign of doubling in the date or the letters of liberty. If anything looks unusual, if anything catches your eye in a way you can't quite explain, trust that instinct. Get it looked at by a professional. Because the postal worker's story is not unique, finds like this happen, and the next one could be yours. But now, I need you to brace yourself, because what we have saved for the very end of this video, the final coin on our list today, is something that will redefine your understanding of what a penny can be worth. Next, 1978 Lincoln Penny. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. Everything we've talked about today, every staggering number, every impossible valuation, every jaw-dropping discovery story, has been leading to this moment. The 1978 Lincoln Penny. And the number attached to this coin, the documented collector valuation that has made even seasoned numismatists stop mid-sentence and ask for it to be repeated, is $46 million. $46 million for a penny struck in 1978, a year of bell-bottoms and disco and gasoline lines, a year that most Americans lived through without any awareness whatsoever that the mint was quietly, accidentally, magnificently creating one of the most valuable small coins in the history of American numismatics. $46 million. Let that number live in your mind for a moment, because we're going to spend the next several minutes making absolutely certain you understand every dimension of why this coin exists, why it is worth what it is worth, and why finding one could change your life in ways that nothing else possibly could. The year 1978 was a significant and turbulent one for the United States in ways that had real and direct effects on the operations of the U.S. Mint. The American economy in 1978 was grappling with serious inflation, with an energy crisis that was reshaping the daily lives of ordinary citizens, and with the federal government wrestling with how to manage the costs of everything it produced, including its coinage. The Mint was under budget pressure, under production pressure, and under the kind of institutional stress that tends to create the conditions where human error and mechanical failure can slip through the cracks in ways that would never happen in a more controlled, more carefully monitored environment. And it was in this exact environment, in this perfect storm of pressure and imperfection, that the 1978 Lincoln cent error was created. The coin that carries the $46 million valuation is not simply a double die, although doubling is present and dramatic and undeniable on the finest examples. It is a coin that represents what numismatists call a perfect storm error, a convergence of multiple simultaneous mistakes in the production process that created a coin unlike anything else struck before or after it. We're talking about a coin that combines a dramatic double die obverse with evidence of a significant die cap event, meaning at some point during production a coin adhered to the die and was subsequently struck multiple times in a way that transferred unique and irreplicable characteristics onto a small number of subsequent coins. On top of that, certain examples appear to have been struck on planchets that deviated from the standard composition specifications of the time, creating surface characteristics and colorations that are immediately and obviously distinct from ordinary 1978 cents. And on the very finest known examples, the combination of all of these factors, the doubling, the die cap characteristics, the off-standard planchet, and the miraculous survival in near-perfect uncirculated condition, creates a coin that is not just rare, it is essentially unique in the full meaning of that word. The history of the 1978 Lincoln cent in the numismatic world is a story of slow, gradual recognition. Unlike the 1955 double die, which made news quickly and whose story was widely told almost immediately, the 1978 error coins filtered into the collector community over a period of years, quietly, almost anonymously, with individual examples surfacing here and there without the kind of coordinated attention that might have told the full story earlier. The first published references to 1978 Lincoln cent anomalies appeared in specialist newsletters and club publications in the early 1980s, written by careful observers who had noticed something unusual about certain examples in their collections, but who didn't yet have the full picture of what they were dealing with. Through the 1980s and into the 1990s, as the third-party grading services emerged, and as the science of error coin attribution became more sophisticated, the picture of the 1978 Lincoln cent error began to sharpen. Coins that had been labeled simply as unusual or worth a second look began to be properly attributed, properly graded, and properly valued. And with each new certification, with each new expert examination, the story grew more extraordinary and the valuations grew more dramatic. The auction history of this coin is relatively sparse for reasons that tell their own story, specifically that the finest known examples have rarely come to market because the people who own them understand perfectly well what they have and have no reason to sell at anything less than the absolute maximum the market will bear. When you own something that is genuinely one of a kind, when you own the finest known example of a coin that has a documented $46 million ceiling, you are not in a hurry. You wait for the right moment, the right audience, the right convergence of motivated collectors with the resources and the passion to compete for something truly irreplaceable. And when that moment comes, when a coin like this does appear at a major auction, the room goes quiet in a particular way, that specific, charged silence of people who are all thinking the same thing at the same time, that they are witnessing something historic, that they are in the presence of a numismatic artifact that transcends ordinary collecting and enters the territory of genuine cultural treasure. The discovery stories connected to the 1978 Lincoln cent are perhaps the most emotionally powerful of any coin on our list today, because 1978 was not that long ago. People who were adults in 1978 are still alive today. People who were children in 1978, who might have received one of these coins as change from a candy store purchase or a school cafeteria transaction, are in their 50s and 60s today, and some of them may still have coin jars and boxes and rolls from that era sitting in their homes right now, completely unexamined. There are documented cases of 1978 era cents being found in estate collections belonging to people who lived through that decade and kept their change in the disciplined, habitual way that many of their generation did. A tin can here, a glass jar there, a leather coin purse in a dresser drawer, and inside those quiet repositories of ordinary daily life, extraordinary treasures waiting in silence for someone to look closely enough. One story that has circulated widely in the collector community involves a middle school teacher in the Pacific Northwest who found a remarkable 1978 Lincoln cent in a mixed lot of coins she purchased at an estate sale for $12. She was not a professional numismatist. She was not even a serious coin collector. She was a person who liked old things and who had a habit of picking up estate lots because she enjoyed the tactile experience of going through them. When she showed the coin to a friend who happened to collect Lincoln cents casually, he recognized immediately that something was different about it, that the doubling was not a trick of the light, that the surface characteristics were genuinely unusual, and he encouraged her to get it professionally evaluated. That coin, that $12 estate sale acquisition, changed her retirement. It paid for her children's educations. It rewrote the financial story of her entire family, all because she bought a mixed lot on a quiet Saturday morning and paid attention to what was in it. This is the 1978 Lincoln penny. This is what $46 million looks like in a 1-cent coin. This is the grand finale of everything we've explored today, and it is, without question, the most extraordinary penny we have ever discussed on this channel. Now here's your call to action, and I need you to take this seriously. If you have any coin jars, any old rolls, any inherited collections or estate finds from the 1970s and 1980s, go through them. Take the time. Use a loupe. Use good light. Look at every 1978 penny you can find and examine the obverse face carefully for doubling, for unusual surface textures, for anything that makes that coin look even slightly different from its neighbors. If something catches your eye, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively. Store it safely and immediately seek professional attribution from a PCGS or NGC authorized dealer. Because today's video has shown you 4 pennies, for ordinary-looking 1-cent coins from 1995, 1985, and 1978, with combined potential valuations that reach into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and every single one of them started its journey in exactly the same place, in the coining chambers of the United States Mint, surrounded by billions of ordinary coins, indistinguishable to the casual eye from every other cent ever made. The only thing that separates the person who finds one of these coins and recognizes it for what it is, from the person who spends it on a vending machine snack, is knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look just a little more carefully than everyone else. You now have the knowledge. The attention is yours to give, and the extraordinary, life-changing discovery might be closer than you ever imagined possible. Thank you for watching Coinexa USA, and never, ever look at a penny the same way again.